Hello and welcome to the Exponential Edge podcast with your host, Arya Suler. I'm excited to have you join me on this journey exploring the forefront of technological advancements and innovation that will shape our future. As a sophomore at Acton Boxer Regional High School and the CEO of SecArmor, a cybersecurity startup, I have always been fascinated by the transformative power of technology. In this podcast, we will dive deep into 5 key areas that are poised for exponential growth in the next decade. We'll be exploring the realms of cybersecurity, generative AI, sustainability and climate tech, biotech and human longevity, as well as the reshoring of manufacturing. These topics hold immense potential to revolutionize our world and redefine the way we live, work, and interact. Each episode will feature insightful conversations with experts, thought leaders, and visionaries who are at the forefront of these fields. In just 30 minutes, our goal is to provide you with 5 signature nuggets of wisdom from our guests. These key takeaways will empower you with knowledge and help you stay ahead in an ever-evolving technological landscape. Without further ado, let's introduce our guest for this week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Exponential Edge podcast. Today, our guest is Geetha Manjunath, CEO of Niramai and Forbes Top 20 honoree. Hi, Geeta.
Hi, how are you, Arya?
I'm good. Could you please give us a brief story of your career just to start us off?
Sure. So I'm basically a computer scientist from India. I did my first master's from computer science from Indian Institute of Science, which is one of the premier institutes of research and science education from Bangalore, in south of India. And then I went on to join, my passion for research, made me join this almost the only research institute which was doing some real good stuff in India in computer science. And this was CDAC, which was developing the first supercomputer from India. This was way back in 91. And that's when I really loved being in a room full of enthusiastic researchers trying to do something for the country and things like that. And I was there for about 6 to 7 years. And after that, Hewlett Packard wanted to start a research lab in India. And they basically, for some reason, reached out to me, and it was fun. So I joined them as a first member of research in Bangalore, working out of Bangalore. But it was a very, very good episode of 17 years where I had a great opportunity to mingle and interact with international researchers. I used to travel to Palo Alto and rest of the different cities for conferences, for co-workers to work with my colleagues, and learned a lot from the international researchers, because the way we used to do research in India was more for publishing and so on. But I saw a remarkable difference how this was done in the US, more to make a difference on the ground, to solve a real problem, come up with a completely new sort of solution which does not exist before. So I really was fascinated and loved the way research can be morphed into innovation and trying to make somebody's life better. And parallelly, I also went back to school, did my PhD in parallel. So I chose this time to work in the area of AI, because that was just coming up and I wanted to learn a lot more. So I said the best way is to choose a research problem in that. So that was fun. So I took 5 years to complete the PhD along with my HP labs activities, but it was very good learning of a lot of math that is needed for AI and so on. Then it was time for me to move out of HP labs, so I went on to join Xerox Research, which was starting again in India, in Bangalore actually, and I joined their research lab as head of AI, or head of data analytics as we called it. So I had this lab where we had wonderful researchers, all of us trying to see how we can use AI to solve some real problems. So that was sorry. So that was the thing, and then that's when the whole life also took a major turn for me. It was fun. Tried to sort of work on really interesting problems using AI and solving it, being it in education domain, customer care, transportation, and also healthcare. Working with a lot of hospitals in US and India that way.
It's
Uh,
fine. It's a live
and I'm
podcast.
so sorry.
It,
So
it's alright.
right, and that's when I there was a major issue that happened in my family, that I lost one of my cousin sisters to breast cancer. She was 42 years. She had a small son, and she detected it so late that she could only survive for 6 months after that. That was a huge shock. That's when I said, okay, I want to do something in this space, right? Why are so many women dying of breast cancer? And I started a small research in my lab, try to experiment. Are there other modalities, other ways maybe AI can be used, which is what I knew well. And to my shock, within 6 months of that episode, I lost another of my family member, this time on my husband's side. She was just 38. And to top it all, she actually also detected late and passed away within, I guess, a year or so. And she died on her son's birthday. It was something that I couldn't, digest anymore. I said, how can so many women just die, right? When their children are so young, the family, they're just getting into the life of being, a good mother, good wife, or just having their fun as a family member. So that's when I decided I want to do this more seriously. And I quit my job. I was a lab director for AI research for Xerox at that time. And I said, okay, I just want to make this more live and more real. So I quit. Two of my team members joined me as well. That Shiva and Himanshu, they're still with me. And then I started Niramai. So Niramai is a startup, now 6 years old. And we started off with the new idea of using thermal imaging and AI to actually detect cancer in young women, where both of my cousin sisters uh, could not detect their cancer early because mammography could not detect it early
Mhm.
enough. So
Yeah.
that's when I said, I'm going to solve this problem. And now I am, yes, CEO and founder of Niramai, where we have now developed a novel method of detecting breast cancer, and it is more affordable, accessible, radiation free, and all the good stuff that can make so many women happy.
Mhm.
That's my
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. That's great. You've had a lot of experience, obviously, and I think it's awesome that you have a reason why you're doing this. You have a reason why you created your company, and you're just fighting to like avenge those people you lost. So, could you give our listeners a brief overview of the current state of breast cancer diagnosis, and what are the most common methods being used today? What are the shortcomings, limitations?
Sure, I will be happy to do that. So, breast cancer is actually what I call as largest cancer killer in women. Basically, the largest number of cancer incidences across all types of cancers happen to be breast cancer. It's actually almost 28% of all cancers found first in the breast. Secondly, it is also the most common cancer, which is the cause of a cancer death. So it's both the incidences and death, both it is the top. And this is the case not just globally. If you look at individual countries, more than 159 countries have this as the top. A few of them have it as a second in the incidence and also mortality. So it is a problem that everybody needs to address and try to address, right? The fortunate thing is that nobody needs to die of breast cancer. It is one of the most manageable, curable of all the diseases because it's soft tissue. All you need to do is, if I put it in a very simple term, if you find cancer, all you need to do is remove some tissue around it along with the lesion, along with the like cancer, you take some more tissue around it, take it out, and it will be not spreading. It does not come back. The lady can go back to work. You'll not even know that she had cancer. She can live for 30, 40 years of it. The only issue why so many women are dying is because they do not detect it early enough so that we can remove a small tissue. They detect it so late that it's maybe spread throughout the breast or most parts of the breast. Maybe it's also got into the blood, so it goes into other places the other breast, in the axilla area, sometimes brain, and several other places, what we call as metastasis. So the only problem why we lose people, the most highest reason is the late detection. Now the question is why the late detection? The late detection is because people, or many women, basically think that if there is a lump, something that is growing, then I have to go and show it to my doctor. But you won't simply accidentally find a lump. If you want to use your hand and sort of feel the lump, it has to be palpable, means something that you can feel as something bigger than the rest of the tissue, for which it has to be almost close to 2 centimeters or even higher than 2 centimeters. So till then, the lady doesn't feel it. So this is an issue because 2 centimeter means stage 2 plus, already stage 2. So that is where the treatment is not as effective. And by the time she finds, maybe it is not just 2 centimeters, maybe 5 centimeters. I have seen people come with 5 to 6 centimeters big. It's like half of their breast, right? They don't come till they actually realize this. Particularly in younger women, there is like hard tissue or dense tissue. So it's even harder to find if there is anything abnormal. So it becomes much more difficult to find it in young women. And also the fact that, in younger women, there is more, they're more active, there is more, better acceleration of tissues and so on. It moves from stage 1 to stage 4 very quickly. So we need to catch it early. So there are a lot of these issues, everything boiling down to one point. How can we detect it early? What are the mechanisms to detect it early? And this is what I understood. And what was another shocking thing, Arya, is that in India and countries like India, every alternate lady detected with breast cancer is dying within 2 years, which is shocking. That is 50% mortality rate, which is crazy. Wow. Because you can have 95% mortality, survival rate. 95% people can survive, but still we are losing. So this is the whole problem I wanted to solve. And we wanted to solve it in a way by addressing the problems for enabling early detection today. Do you want me to go through that right now, or?
Yeah, that did bring me to the next question. So how does your team at Niramai identify the gap in the current methods of breast cancer detection and decide to address it with your unique solution for your company? And I know the gene mutations, the BRCA1 and 2, those significantly increase the breast cancer risk. So could you also go into how Niramai helps specifically with those mutations as well?
Sure. So the question is, why are we detecting it late, right? So that's the gap, right? The gap is really, first and foremost, is awareness. First of all, people should know that you need not wait for a lump to appear to actually go to a hospital. That's one thing, right? We need, for example, in COVID, we saw this, right? When somebody started coughing or started feeling some irritation, in the throat, immediately, you could take a COVID test to make sure that it's early catching and all of that, factors can be considered. As opposed to somebody who sort of cannot even breathe, and then you directly, like the person directly goes to ICU. So that aspect, right? So how does that work? So every year or every alternate year, the female has to go to a hospital and do a regular annual health checkup. Just check. Nothing is wrong, great. Something early is seen, just get it done with and then come out. That's what the mentality first, awareness should be. Second is the current method of screening, which is called mammography, which is what is used in many parts of the world, is not affordable and accessible for a country like India. or Philippines or Kenya or many other
Yes.
developing countries.
Hmm.
Because it's almost like $250,000. A really good mammo machine can also be like $450,000. It's a lot of money for a hospital to do it, buy this device. So that's not just the machine. The people who will do the screening have to be slightly more skilled. They have to be what are called as technologists, right? So the training, having skilled force, workforce, and also interpretation has to be done by doctors called radiologists. And again, there is a gap there. We have very few radiologists today in India. So all of these three put together make the current solution not so affordable. It's available. It's available in big hospitals, but India and countries like India have so many females. Not everyone will
Hmm.
go to hospital just to do this simple test. So
Yeah.
that's the big issue. The second issue is there is a physics limitation of mammography. The limitation is that it uses X-rays for detecting abnormalities in the breast, and it looks for density differences to say, right? Means something like a lump will be higher density than the rest of the tissue. That's the principle. Now, if a female has dense breast, which means there's more fibrogranular tissue, the whole breast appears white in an X-ray, right? And how do you find a white spot? It's a physics limitation that you cannot find dense tissue in, or rather, you cannot find a lesion with density differences if the whole breast is dense. And this brings to the point that mammography does not work on dense breasts, which is seen in almost all women under 45 years and about half of women above 45. And Indian and Asian women tend to have more denser breast tissue than any other countries. So it makes it much more harder. Even if the person knows and affords to pay, mammography may not detect the cancer. So most hospitals here, I'm just coming after visiting two hospitals, and both these hospitals basically do both mammography and ultrasound on every person so that they
Yeah.
don't miss any cancer.
And
So
both
this
are really expensive, right?
both are
Even
also
ultrasound.
expensive, absolutely
Mm.
expensive for a lady to pay, and we don't have like a lot of insurance support for
What
it.
about MRI? Even I know that's expensive too, but
Even more expensive. And MRI is that cocoon kind of a thing, like you go in and sleep there, and like there is a lot of you have generally people get injected with radioisotopes and so on. So that's not really a screening method. But if you find that somebody has an abnormality, that's a great test to go and do it as a diagnostic modality. Is it spread to any other place? Because it has extremely high sensitivity. That is, it can detect even small cancer. But you can't make every lady go under that. One is cost, another is it's just the experience of, and also the safety aspect of it. And last but not the least, from a mammography standpoint, is the just the user experience, right? Here, like the lady has to remove her clothes in front of somebody else, which is not very comfortable for many women. And then breast is pulled between two plates and X-rays are passed. So it's a very cumbersome test, to say the least, and women would like to avoid or try to avoid it, not do it every year. So then again, or every alternate year, which hurts the system. So these are the gaps that we all sort of understood, evaluated, and incidentally, when I was initially starting off the project in my previous organization, I found that I discussed with many imaging specialists, right, to see is there any other imaging modality that I can use. Then one Dr. Mester pointed me to a paper in thermal imaging that was long ago, in 1980s and all. So I read
yeah,
and I felt, okay, there is this technology which does not depend on density, which seems to be affordable, but does it really detect cancer? So that's when we screened a few people, figured out that it actually is able to show some signature for positive versus negative and all. So that's all. So basically, we understood that we need an alternate modality, an additional modality which does not use X-rays to actually detect cancer in these women, where mammography may miss the cancer. So that was the starting point of what we have developed so far.
yeah. So with the thermal imaging, there is AI involved, right? That analyzes the tissue. Could you go into the algorithms that the AI uses specifically to analyze that tissue?
Absolutely. So, try to give you a high level view of it. So basically, what happens is when we use a thermal imaging camera earlier, 1970s and all what's called as thermography, uses very old cameras. Camera means it's an infrared imaging device. It's an infrared camera, we call it. Just like it's an imaging device. But what happens is when I take a picture from any of the photos, you get like how the person looks. But when you take the infrared imaging device, you get to know the temperature points for every dot. Like what is the temperature here? Like that, right? Every pixel is a temperature value. And it gives you what's called as a heat map where all, let's say, 37 degrees Celsius would be white color, 36 degrees Celsius would be orange, So it gives you a color map where every color point is a temperature value. Now, what was happening before was doctors were viewing it like bare eyes and then trying to say or guess whether there's an abnormality or not. It's literally guesswork because a 34 degrees Celsius and 35 degrees Celsius both will appear red. And there may be several reasons why something is red or high in high temperature. It's not necessarily cancer. So all of them were being called out as positive. Then all the false positives and wolf aspect of it that you stop believing it, and all of that had happened. So when we knew what AI could do, when I read this, I said, why can't we use a computer aided analysis to improve the accuracy of the interpretation? There are all the good stuff, it's radiation free, it's non contact, the device is not expensive, it is portable, you need not do it only in a hospital, you can take it out and do it. It's amazing. The only issue is accuracy. And if it's not accurate, what is the use, right? There's no point in using it. So what AI does here is to bring in the accuracy of interpretation. And what exactly do we do is the question you asked. So first and foremost, so I would say that, the overall thermalytics, we call it thermal analytics, has about 20 different AI algorithms. Okay.
Wow.
So the first set of AI algorithms are first of all checking whether the image was taken properly or not. We came up with the imaging protocol because just like in an MRI, you make the person sit for 10, 15, 20 minutes and then you make a stent go in, or the doctor basically injects something into the body before she goes in and so on. We need to bring in some kind of a contrast and stability in the body before you image anything that is related to tissues. If it's a broken, bone or something, it doesn't matter. You just go X-ray it and you will find it. But if it's related to the tissue activity, the tissue has to be like stable, right? So we make the person sit and then blow cool air for about 8 minutes. So the AI comes in and says, has this been done properly, correctly? Couple of things. The imaging protocol itself, right? Was the cooling protocol, we call it, was that done well? So there's a cooled, uncooled, supervised classification that we do. Second, we look at the posture, right? There are 5 views, frontal, left 45, left 90. She has to rotate on a stool, just a few clicks, right? And was that done correctly or not? That's also a deep learning algorithm. So all of this, the image quality check is all deep learning based, CNN based tests where we tune and train the models with positive and negative samples, and then we try to predict. We also once the image is good, we now start extracting many statistical features as well as semantic features, we say, because medicine or any AI for medicine requires to have the medical knowledge imbibed into it to be really accurate. You can't just do with data. It's like domain information has to be part of it. So for example, we have again a deep learning algorithm to extract blood vessel structure from a thermal image. Blood vessel structure where there is a little high thermal activity being seen, so high blood flow is seen, and so on. So that again uses deep learning again, and then again once the image is taken, where is the breast? We call it breast segmentation. That is a decoder encoder kind of an architecture where we also do the marking of the area, identify the area that needs to be analyzed. So, Finally, once the features are extracted, multiple features are extracted. Once we extract it, we have to look at different segments of features or groups of features, and then you would have heard about explainable AI, right? So it's not just enough saying, hey, this lady has breast cancer, and you can't send her to a doctor like that. It's why are you saying it? Where is it? What do I do with that information? You have to
Yeah.
explain the result. What is
Hmm.
the algorithm thinking, essentially, right? So that's why we actually pick up a bunch of features related to vascularity and call it a vascular score. A bunch of features related to high thermal asymmetry, that is called as a thermal or a hotspot score. And then anything to do with milk ducts we have. So we have different scores indicating this person is looking abnormal because the vascular activity in this breast is higher than that other breast. Here is the blood vessels which are feeding into this place, so these are the things. Like, one is in terms of scores, indicating which score is higher will give you will give the doctor indication. Second is also in the image annotation, right? In we do the marking of the lesion which is likely to be abnormal, the location where the problem could be. So the best thing is that the doctor will look at the lady's images and say, oh, okay, here is where in the left breast this particular area. Then she does an ultrasound or an MRI or a mammogram and correlates that location to what she's seeing in the image. So that is more actionable, right? So all this uses bunch of AI algorithms. We've also tried to use some kind of uh, you know, what is generative in nature, which is the hype, right? There's a lot of talk about generative AI. You try to use that for generating some synthetic information, so that you can actually tune your algorithms in a better way, in a more balanced way, and so on. But that's not in the main line of work, but like GANs and all, as more in terms of improving the data set for training itself. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's explainable, and a lot of imaging annotation, and of course deep learning wherever we have more data available.
Yep. So that's amazing, since it's probably the most complex but also comprehensive, most surefire way to detect breast cancer right now. But I also like how you said it needs to be explainable. It needs to be easily accessible,
Yes,
especially in India where people might not know much about breast cancer. And
absolutely.
you did go into how the environment in India, the communities in India, they might not have access to good breast cancer screening. But I also wanted to ask, what has the reaction been to Niramai's breast cancer screening?
Right. So if, you know what, first time when we took it to the doctor, he said, like, what the hell? I mean, like, literally, what are you saying? Can I detect cancer without touching the person, without radiation? Can AI do it? Come on, show it to me, right? So that was the first reaction, right? And so all we had to do was said, yes, sir, we want to learn too. Can we try it on your patients, right? So because this was completely non-invasive, there was completely like no touch and no side effects or anything. It was fine. We could get people to take our test and then go in and do mammography, ultrasound, and then do it. So we had to do a lot of these clinical studies, systematic clinical studies, to prove to the doctors as well as to ourselves and to the world that it is really working, right? I think that's the most important part, right? The first reaction is, does it really work? It's too good to be true. Like, are you kidding? That's how it started. But then when you actually start showing results, then there is more dependability on the results, trust that is built in, all of that. So that was where, the first 2 years almost we spent doing many many studies. It's not just enough to do a study in the lab. You do it in real hospitals, where none of us are involved. It's just the doctors who are looking at it in a blinded fashion, and so on and so forth. And also we need to publish the results in top journals, and journals, experts basically review them and then say, yes, this is good. So we got many of these papers done. Now the reaction is very good. Like they're saying, we've now done 120,000 women screen, right? And it's a big
Wow.
number,
Yeah.
right, for a new test
Hmm.
that's coming. And
Definitely.
so this was not easy, but now, like, really people love it. Done so many patient experience, questionnaires, asking them like, well, how do they feel it, and One thing that women love about this is the privacy awareness of the test. It's kind of like a room, a curtain covered room, if you will, right, where the lady goes inside. There's nobody inside the room. It's like a changing room. You go in, close the door, and then remove the clothes. It's so private, right? So private, as private as it can get to. And the technician is outside. She's able to see the profile and then say turn left, turn right, or whatever. So that's what it is. So that is something every lady loves. The hospital providers or non-profit organizations love the fact that it's very inexpensive. It's less than $2 per person once you buy
Hmm.
a device, right? So that's so very efficient for them by providing impact to many more people for the same. Let's say $100, you can save like 50 people, right? It's like crazy easy to do this. So that's another thing. And they also like the fact that it is portable. You can take it out and do the screening in the remotest of the villages and so on. So we've got excellent positive feedback on the test, both from the users and the doctors who have done the clinical study. The good news is we've also gotten US FDA clearance for one of our devices right now as an adjunct device. And then we have a CE mark for a full standalone model as well, which is making people believe it much more that there is regulatory
Yeah.
clearance, there are
Yeah.
clinical factors, and more hospitals are adopting as we speak.
Hmm. But like you said initially, the people you talk to, they're like, "What the hell?" So, what other hurdles did you have to get past to get to this stage?
Yeah, so that's definitely the largest one. The second one was COVID. COVID was so bad, man. Like basically, what happened was everything was still right. So we were doing thousands of screenings in a month. I thought, here we are scaling up and we'll go everywhere. Suddenly COVID came in and there were a lot of regulations put in India, you might have seen, right? Hospitals, they all said, people go to hospitals only for COVID, and it's for good reasons. I'm not debating that.
Yeah.
But what happened was that our screenings in hospitals almost came to single digit numbers in the month, which is crazy, right? So that was a huge challenge. We were doing a lot of screening camps in rural areas because of social distancing norms. We were not allowed to do any of these as well. So that was a big blow, I would say. But the good part is, like all of us said, we are going to be on the path. We are not going to deter. And I really love
Hmm.
my team for that,
Yeah.
to staying on the course. And I said, why don't you work sitting inside the office or like home, right? We don't have to be on the ground for everything. So what can we do within four walls, right? So that was a lot of documentation, process enhancements and so on. So we focused a lot internally within the company, and we got ourselves ISO 13485, which is a standard quality management system. We cleaned up all our processes to scale, and then we got all the regulatory clearances that we're talking about. All of that could be done without going out, because we did have quite a bit of data outside, but it's about how do we use the data to make our test more trustworthy. So that's what we focused on. And after about 2 years now, of course, we did some more things to stay alive. But in addition, right, we were able to come back stronger when COVID was somewhat off. And now we are doing so many more screenings. So that, I think, was another big challenge, I would say. Initially, there was a challenge about creating awareness, telling people. They all felt like, I'm not coming, it's like it's painful, side effects. No, it's not like what you've seen before. It's different. So that kind of counseling and giving talks and create, like, a lot of webinars, all of that helped to reduce the barrier to a great extent, for people coming. So some of these were main. And also, when things are not going well, especially COVID times and so on, we lose a lot of people. They lose motivation, and some of the senior members quit. So that was a little bit of an issue. But yeah, I mean, things will move on, because there are always that core member who really want to solve the problem. And, we've always stuck on, and it's been great.
Yeah. And what I've seen with COVID for a lot of the people who I've talked to, it's been like the same type of scenario. especially with these startups, with these new ventures. A
Yeah,
lot of people quit. Uh, they're so close to giving up, but just the core group of people stick through
absolutely.
it, and they're all thriving now because of that.
Absolutely. I think it's important to stay focused, keep the passion, keep the commitment, and move on,
Yeah,
right? It's so there's
because
persistence is very, very important.
they're all great ideas. It's just one setback,
Yeah,
and if you get past that, you can actually
absolutely.
get
Absolutely.
to doing that great idea. And then I just wanted to shift gears for the last few questions. Uh, so we hear a lot about the intersection of AI and healthcare. So, in your opinion, what role will AI play in the future of healthcare as a whole? And also, what's next for Niramai in particular? What new
Sure.
technologies are you going to use?
Right. So I think I'm super excited about the possibilities of using AI for enabling affordable, accessible, high quality healthcare for everyone. And this, I think, is definitely possible because of AI, right? The way I think about it, Arya, is that especially if you think of country like India, right, or even the world is divided into two types of sort of people or environments, ecosystem. So the one, basically the haves and the have-nots, to say the, in a very simple manner. So there's really a lot of economic challenges in many parts of the world, but that doesn't mean they cannot get high quality healthcare. So here is where AI can actually help in identifying people who have an abnormality, who need to be brought to a hospital, or maybe they're remote or they cannot afford. Don't need to get everybody, highly expensive equipment. You need to identify those people who need to be brought to the high infrastructure, and you need to do that sieving or triaging in a very simple automated manner. And that's what AI can enable, right? And it's not just for breast cancer, you could do it for every other type of cancer, you as much as possible, and every other type of disease as well. So I feel we could have a mini robotic specialized doctor, which is be AI, fine tuned for a particular disease. Of course, every person can't go through 100 tests, but how do we sort of bring them all together is something. But right, ideally, you could basically make every person go through an AI doctor, which says green, red, yellow, and the red people come in and they are given the attention. And this is
Yeah.
affordable, right? It is definitely
Mhm.
affordable because the good news is that out of all the people, very few people will be sick. Most of them will be healthy. That's sort of the imbalance, good imbalance that we have in the classes of healthy and non-healthy. If you look at it in AI front, so this is though even on an urban setting or like most developed world, the doctors are flocked with patients, because they're
Mhm.
very good and lots of people come in. And here again, AI can come in and basically uh, do that saving for normal looking, for which are these patients who require an additional eye or more detailed look, as opposed to everyone taking half an hour's time of the doctor. Now the AI can figure out who is a higher priority versus that. So this to me is an exciting moment where you can really make this happen and we can really make so many people healthy, right? This I think is not just relevant to developing countries but also in developed world, because everywhere the cost factor is also very, very important. Everybody wants to save costs, because money is not cheap. So it, whatever is applicable to developing countries is also applicable to the developed countries. So that's to me is a very, very big exciting part. There's also the newer elements coming in with generative AI, where I feel very positive about the creative element of Gen AI, right? There is a sort of creativity aspect of it, which enables, for example, I'm, excited about this use case of medical education, right? If you want to see how does a person with both breast cancer and diabetes and maybe lung infection looks like, it's very difficult to find that patient, right? Because he or she may be there, but where we don't know. But you could generate that viewpoint for a doctor or a doctor to be student, basically learn about this. So I think there is a lot of scope for medical education with generative AI aspects of it, and several other non-clinical usages of AI for healthcare is also possible. Reducing the waiting time, reducing, using the infrastructure in a more efficient manner, and bringing the doctors and patients together, like a teleconsultation mode without wasting fuel and all of that. So I think there's tremendous opportunity for AI in use
Yep,
cases in healthcare.
of course.
And as far as Nirama is concerned, we are the pioneers of AI in thermal imaging. And while we can definitely do AI on other modalities like X-rays, CT, MR, and all, we don't want to get distracted. We want to stay focused on our core strength and take this to several other type of diseases and other type of abnormalities. And that, to me, is the future of Niramai, where you would have an ATM-like machine. You go in and get scanned, and it'll tell you where all the problems are and automatically in 2 minutes. That's I think where we are going. And also geographically, we are now reaching out beyond India, and I'm very excited to be right now used in many other Asian and African countries and European countries as well. And two doctors in US are using it already. So
Mhm.
that's where we are,
Yep, that's
and we are
great.
moving forward.
So, yeah, AI definitely is the future of all healthcare, and it's great that you guys are pushing it forward at such a great pace.
Thank you.
So, finally, could you just go over the 5 key takeaways that you have from this conversation, your 5 golden nuggets, most important parts of this conversation?
Sure, that's actually the toughest question, but let me try. So, I would say that a couple of things, right? One, developing innovative methods is not easy, right? There will be challenges, otherwise, everyone would have done it, remember. And you need to stay focused. Perseverance is key. Passion is the one which will take you there. And of course, do that once you trust that your solution works. We are not doing it for the sake of, hey, my idea, let me go through it, right? The second part
Yeah.
really is about, if you have an idea and you want to validate it as if you are a third person, right? You make sure that it convinces you first that it's the right thing, and then you go all out at it, right? I think clinical validation and detailed clinical validation, because you are, especially in healthcare, you are affecting somebody's life, so we have to be very careful about what is the result we are giving. So I think the second part is about being true to the customer, true to the end user, I would say, and that's what should be the answer, not because it's my idea and it will work. No, right? That's the second one, I would say. The third one related to like COVID, how things can just go upside down and so on, right? And one mantra for me there, and we didn't talk about it specifically, is I have this mantra, which is whatever happens is for good. It doesn't matter. Nothing always will go the way you want it to go, right? There will always be what you want, and what happens will be very different. Just, of course, you feel sad. Oh, it didn't happen. But go with the flow. Whatever is happening is for the best and better of what is going to happen. And this will take you through. You can sail through the sort of the troughs of the life, So that's something that I would say. I guess the fourth one is really about no age is bar. It's never late. It's never ever late. You could do a startup while you are in college, while you are in school, right after college, right after school. You can also do a startup after 15 years of working. It doesn't matter. All it requires is your determination to solve the problem and go for it. Don't worry about what others say and so on. You just go for it. That's something. In a similar spirit, the final one I would say is women can do it too. Very, very few women entrepreneurs, very, very few women in tech. It doesn't matter. Gender, keep the gender aside, right? That's what I would say. And you just show the person in you, right? Everybody is a human being at the end of the day, and some of us have a few differences in qualities. Just amplify your positives, and you know try and see how you can leverage others' strengths for any of your weaknesses. So I think, irrespective of the gender, we should look at it as a human potential that each one of us possess and make best use of that. That's what I would say.
Thank you for that. And thank you for joining us today. Geeta, your story is definitely an inspiration, especially to me, for many women. Just your mission as well, very
Thank you.
inspirational.
Thank you so much, Arya. All the best for everyone.
Yep.
Thank you so
And
much.
thanks all the viewers for tuning in this week on the Exponential Edge. And join us in coming weeks as we delve into topics that will see exponential adoption in the future. Bye. And thanks again.
Bye bye. Thank you.